Are you frustrated with your SAT score? Please know you are not alone. I have worked with countless numbers of students in classes, in person, who are just feeling at a total loss with their SAT score. Today's video is going to be strategically how to increase your SAT ELA score by 100 plus points. This is not a gimmick. This is not a, hey, watch this video and you'll naturally increase your score. This is going to give you the rundown of strategies and things to study so that you can apply it for test day. If you enjoy this content, make sure to like and subscribe. And if you have any questions about this material, please go ahead and comment below. But that all being said, let's get started.
Okay, to most effectively improve an SAT ELA score, I've kind of broken it down into four groups. Number two is going to be the grammar on a couple different grammar hotspots with some practice questions as well. But this is kind of what I always tackle with students right away for some quick score wins. And a lot of them are pretty easy. So on the first one, I actually think it's the easiest, is it's my favorite one to teach, is how to do these bulleted lists. And so these are always at the end of module 1 and module 2 on the ELA, unless something drastic changes after this recording. But that being said, a lot of students waste time actually reading all these. And the key that you need to do is you actually just need to focus on this first sentence. And this is consistent throughout. Every once in a while, you have to refer back to the bullets, but most of the time you can ignore them. So let's do this one together. The student wants to present the study and its findings. So what we are looking for in our answer choices is going to be only the study and its findings. And if you're watching this recording and you hear a cat, I apologize. I have a kitten that I think really wants lunch at the moment. Okay, so the way I would tackle this is I'm looking for a study and its findings. So if we look at A, said a study, that's a good sign. Led by this person identified a total of 74 species in the temperate forest in Mexico. I don't love that answer, to be honest, but it seems to hit both the study and its findings. But let's go ahead and check the other options as well. Number 2, there are orchids in many environments, but there are 74 O species in Mexico. Yeah, that one's gone because it doesn't talk about a study at all. That Mexico is home to temperate forests containing 74 species. That one really doesn't go with the study and its findings. And then D, this person in our team wanted to know how many different O species are present in the forests of Mexico, so they conducted a study to collect orchids. So this one doesn't have its findings, so the best answer on this one is A. Okay, so we're going to kind of rapid fire through a couple of pretty basic grammar rules, but that get missed a lot. My first one is the things that typically equal a period. And it's just easier for students to think of how to use the period. So one of them, semicolons. No one really writes with semicolons, but the SAT, except on complex lists, and I have an example of that, use the semicolon as a period, and that's how I test it. And the other one that most students miss is called fanboys. They have learned it before, but it's been a while. It just means anytime there's like a comma and or a comma but, there's also others, but this is what I typically see, you pretty much treat it as a period. And if it works as a period, then it's right. So here's our example. So on 2.2, you have kind of an intro, but I'm going to focus on the second sentence. He was instrumental in organizing the Pueblo revolt of blank. As a result of his leadership, the Spanish colonizers were expelled from the region for a time. So we've got a couple of things going on in here, and I underlined a couple spots. So that being said, if you just put in A, that is going to be a run-on sentence, because there's just a lot going on there. So I would have removed that one first. And then what I really want to focus on here is I'm going to erase that, is our differences. So if you look at D, you see that comma and then you look at B, most of the time that's a flag. It's going to be D. But let's check. And remember that comma and is going to be a period. So if you look at it like this, if you test D, is he was instrumental in organizing the Pueblo Revolt of 1680. I was like, okay, that could stand by itself. Let's test the other side. As a result of his leadership, the Spanish colonizers were expelled from the region for a time. So do I love it broken up? No, but does it work? And the answer is yes. So the answer is D. B would also be a run-on sentence. And C is actually going to be something we're getting into. And then on 2B, we're going to be focused on how to quote unquote test colons. You'll hear me use the words test a lot because I think that's the easiest way to tackle grammar is to see which one actually works and follows the grammar rules. So the key with this, and when I talk about colons in a class, most kids shout, they're like, it's for our list, and that's not always the case. But the way you test it is there has to be an independent clause to the left and then a dependent clause to the right. So the sentence I chose, I actually really like for this because it's highlighting a couple things. So if you notice right here, there is a colon, and it shows this example really well. So it says the 2022 Nobel Prize in Chemistry was awarded to 3 pioneers in the field of click chemistry, 2-time Nobel baccalaureate Barry Staples, who coined click chemistry. And then you also have a semicolon here. So what's going on here is they are following the colon rules, and then there's going to be a little bit more going on. So what I have is a semicolon right here. And then for reference, the other reason to use a semicolon is a complex list. And so whenever you have a semicolon, a lot of commas, and another blank, it's going to be a semicolon. So that kind of covers multiple different grammar principles that students tend to fumble with. And then the next one is going to be understanding what the 2 commas actually mean. I tongue-in-cheek call it extra fluff, but what students need to know is that when there's 2 commas in a sentence, the stuff in between is not essential. So if it's correct and use those 2 commas correctly, then you can remove those without changing the meaning of the sentence. And this is what is going on in this one. So if you look first at A, you've got a heck of a lot of commas. So most of the time that's just going to be wrong. But what that would mean is this can be removed. And also all of this can be removed because there's a comma down here. So I would just say off the bat, the answer is not A. And then as we go through the other ones, we have to look what's going to make sense. So if we go energy collected by solar panels during the day, the blinking LED lights keeping lines away at night. So what is highlighted here in B would make a really run-on statement, and that is not what we would want. So what I mean by this necessarily is if you see this comma right here, and because there's no other comma in B, this would be pretty much running on. And if you see this right here, what I am noticing, and this is what I'm going to get into, is the blinking LED lights keep lines away at night, thus protecting the livestock. So this is actually considered extra fluff, and the answer on this one is C. This one's a little bit trickier, but I do like this. And the last one, most people are like, this is too easy, but I see kids miss this all the time, is verb tenses. The key is knowing when to use a plural verb, and I'm highlighting a plural verb there, or a singular verb, which is like was and is, because you have to check the subject. And since these sentences can be crazy long, students really just struggle where the subject is. So on the second sentence, the trefoil knot and the figure 8 knot, each with a crossing number below 5, comma blank, among the simplest possible knots with the fewest number of crossings. So what they're talking about here is these are our subjects. Because a lot of these rules build on each other. So if you refer back to our other rule, you remember that when you've got 2 commas right here, the stuff in between is not essential. So we're actually ignoring that other stuff there. So what I know is that this is plural. So I need a plural subject. So quickly, the answer is B. And a lot of these don't take too long. Okay, so this is kind of a different side of the coin, but I think also really helpful is a lot of students are missing easy points because they are not understanding what the question is asking, which sounds silly, but a lot of them start at the top. And the key that you need to do is you always, that I already pre-highlighted, is start right here is what the question is asking, and then go back and skim to the top. So if you look at this question, we're going to do this one together. It says, what does the text indicate about the discovery of the sandal? So there is a lot of fluff in this passage, but what we know is this is what we're focusing on, indicate about the discovery of the sandal. So that's going to focus our brain to find that information. So as you start looking through this passage here, I am looking for discovery of the sandal. The sandal was most likely degraded quickly, but instead it was well preserved for centuries surrounding the ice. According to archaeologists, the sandal, those worn by Imperial Romans, would it have offered any protection from the cold in the mountains? So some kind of insulation like fabric anal skin would have been worn on the feet of the sandal. So they have a lot going on here. So as you look through this passage, we are looking for what does the text indicate about the discovery of the sandal. So what I'm seeing here is that a warm summer revealed a 1700-year-old sandal. For artifacts, the sandal would have been normally degraded quickly, but it was instead well preserved. So it's talking about preservation. Sandal, like Romans, wouldn't have offered any protection in the cold of the mountains. So would have been needed to be worn on feet with the sandal. So it's just saying like likely it's missing something. Okay, let's look at our options. So temperature contributed both protecting and revealing the sandal. That one's not bad because it protected it a little bit and revealed. So I kind of like A, but we're going to look at the others. The discovery revealed that the Roman Empire had influence on Norway than archaeologists previously assumed. This one is still kind of random and I can't pull it. So I'd eliminate B. And then C, archaeologists would have found the sandal eventually without the help of the general public. That's completely random. So let's remove that. D, the sandal would have degraded if it hasn't been removed from the ice. So this one, the only thing it really validates is A. None of them are really great options. And that's what I always like work with students on the SAT is like you might not like any of the options, but this is going to be the best out of those. So the last concept that we will cover is how to strategize the hard vocab. And there's a lot of traps that students can fall into, but there is ways to potentially increase your score even if you don't know every single vocab word, and that's okay. So what I work with my students on is to be able to plug in either my own word or at least to get a gist of what is going on in the passage. Because the problem is a lot of them won't even read this whole thing and not sure what is going on in the passage. So in this passage, it pretty much talks about municipal waste. What most people will do is they'll look at the big words and be like, move it on. And actually, you might know more of these than you think you do. And then we've got to fill in a blank word. And then what it goes into here is it talks about like different decaying waste and how it differs. So this also was kind of my breakdown and summary. What is going on in the shift, like the two sentences is context, why it can be misleading. So we've got to look for something that is going to kind of have that shift and validate like some of the backing in this. So instead of just like panicking, kind of the best way to look about it is like see if there's any words you know. Most students will kind of sort of know undifferentiated, which means very simply, like they'll recognize differentiated means different. So un is opposite. So then on this one, it would just be not different. And in this passage, what is really convenient is that the simplest word is actually the answer. And then on this passage, this answer is C. If you are stressing to know what the other words mean and why it's not the other words. So A in Bible is going to be something like sacred, really precious, innocuous. And I've seen that word a few times in exams. So that one's probably a good one to know is like not harmful. And then ubiquitous just means like everywhere, like the sky or something like that. So that's why it wouldn't be that, because what is happening is that they're treating the waste as the same. And that's why that's a problem.
Hopefully, you take these skills, apply them, and study for test day. When I'm saying studying or study, I'm not saying that you need to study for hours and hours and hours. I'm saying for a couple of days, take 45 minutes and lock in. If this is helpful and if you would like more content like this, please let me know and support the channel by hitting that subscribe button and hopefully hitting like. But regardless, happy studying.